Yes, it says we're live.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Good morning, Monish and Anthony. Good afternoon, good evening. And hello, everybody out there watching. Thank you guys for being here.
Good morning.
So, we wanted to get together today and talk about why the three of us chose to become Talk to the Entities certified facilitators and how our lives have changed since we become Talk to the Entities facilitators and share some of the stories of the amazing things that it has changed for us. So, Monish, do you want to go first and just talk about why you chose to do this and dive into the weird?
Oh, thank you, Julia. Good morning, Anthony. What
Good
an honor to
morning.
be. What an honor to be here and talk about this. Well, in very short, I had given up on living. Um, I was in my late 20s in India, and I was told that I was schizophrenic and bipolar, and all kinds of other mental health labels that are out there in the market. Like every doctor had a different diagnosis. So I was using a lot of drugs, angry, unhappy, and I was put on some other drugs. So basically, I was dealing with addictions, the mental stuff, hearing voices, etc. And I was trying to kill myself, trying to make it look like a suicide because they want other people to know that how bad it was, and still had that level of caring. Now I can look in retrospect and sort of put words to this. But earlier I didn't have a vocabulary, but thanks to access consciousness and tools of talk to the entities, one day, quote unquote, I tried to just, go into another accident, setting my house on fire, thinking I will not wake up. Woke up with a burning house, thinking it was hell, but it wasn't. It was my bedroom. But like,
Wow.
I remember that night telling myself, I suck at dying. Like, this is so not going to help. Like, okay, there's got to be something else which is, slightly less dramatic than this. And I guess I made a different choice, asking in my head, like, what the fuck else is possible? 2 days later, somebody called me who I used to know to discuss a business project, and we are just having coffee, and I'm sitting with this woman, and suddenly I go like feel bubbly and sense some energy. So I start asking her, what are you doing? What do you really do? So she started telling me about access consciousness and tools, etc. She was a facilitator. That's not why we were meeting. And I chose to do a session, and in that one of that sessions, the very first one we were doing, she asked me some questions based on yes, no, and surprisingly, I was answering those questions. Didn't know the answers cognitively. One of the things she asked me if I was aware of entities and demons, and I just like kind of said yes. And as I said yes, there was this sense of peace and expansion of being and headspace and everything else around me that started occurred. That's the first time I actually felt what space was and what expansion was very dynamically. And the addiction stopped after first session. Insomnia went away, pills went away, voices reduced. So I was like, oh God, what? This can actually change. So I must find out who is Shannon and who is Gary and what is Access. And then basically started choosing classes on steroids and just changed my whole world. I would have been in a rehab or maybe dead by now or like, homeless probably by now. It was so severe and intense. But like luckily now I get to tell my story and people want to like sort of pay me for it and like ask me what I know about this, and like I get to invite others to just know no matter how bad it is, where you are, just ask yourself what am I aware of and start somewhere. And you could be where we are right now. How does it get better?
Wow. Monish, can you talk a little bit more about the difference between mental illness, the schizophrenia you had, the
Yeah.
pretty extreme mental illness, and ghosts and entities?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, one of the things that I can speak to now is if you're hearing voices or if you're seeing things, it's actually occurring. It may not be occurring for everyone around you, but the thing is, the go to prescription in this reality is if you sort of have something like that show up in your world, you are referred to a mental doctor, or it is beyond the realm of so-called limits of psychology presently. But this is so prevalent. Like I grew up in an country like India, where everybody does talk about ghosts and ancestors, etc., all the times. And I remember when I became a Talk to the Entities facilitator, my mother called me and said, "Can you do a session for me? I've been having these dreams for 40 years of these ancestors. I've not slept." And we did a couple of sessions and the dream stopped. But the stigma that still exists in the world to express what you're aware of without, like, sort of battling that tsunami of invalidation where people call you crazy and your difference is sort of mutilated into some sort of sickness, but it's not that. You've got to learn how to embrace your difference and show in the world as that, and the magic starts to unfold right in front of your eyes.
Oh my gosh, that's an amazing story. Jesus. Anth, do you want to share how you
Cool.
started? Anthony, Dr.
Yeah.
Anthony Mathis?
Well, yes. Well, when I first started Access, the only reason really that I went to a Talk to the Entities class was because I wanted to know why the kid's mom committed suicide. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and we had studied so many different techniques and modalities. And being a holistic chiropractor, had been in the healing profession for many, many, many years, and so. And not only different techniques and modalities, different religions too. We had a guru from India, actually from the Isha Yoga Foundation. He was Jaggi Vasudev was our guru. And then we became non-denominational Christians, and we spoke in tongues. We laid our hands on people, prayed for healing. It's like we did everything under the sun. That's just a couple of things that I'm mentioning. And so when she died, I was like, okay. So when I took my first class, I really wasn't there for my own awarenesses. I was there to get answers from someone else, like very similar to like when someone goes and pays a psychic. Because that wasn't an area that I thought I had a capacity in. Okay, for me, I'm a body worker. That's what I've been trained in. That's something that's always been natural for me. So that was my point of view. So I took the kids, all three of them, two boys, a little girl, and it was amazing. Like the first class, I didn't really like too much, to be honest with you. I was like, the kids loved it though. The kids loved it. They said, "This is my favorite class ever." And, at that time they were maybe like 11, 9, and 4, 12, 10, and 4 years old. So I was like, yeah. Looks like, I didn't really, and I got some answers, but I already knew. So anyway, fast forward about 4 years of me being an Access Consciousness certified facilitator, doing energy work, and I felt like I had hit a plateau with my ability to facilitate people. So I felt like I couldn't get beyond a certain area. And so I started asking questions, as you do, one of the tools we learn in Access. And I'm like, okay, what would it take for my sessions to become more potent? What would it take for my foundation classes to become more potent and be able to go to places that will, expand people's universes? And I remember scrolling through Facebook, and Shannon was doing a free taster, Talk to the Entities like taster. And I'm like, oh no universe, it can't be this. So I texted Gary Douglas. I'm like, I'm getting I need to go back to these classes, but I don't really have a capacity in this area. This is for like those other people. And he goes, that's not true. He goes, everyone has the ability to receive, know, be, receive the spirit world. He's like, you just cut yours off at a certain time in your life. And he's like, when did you do that? And in that moment, I actually remembered when I used to lay in bed with my grandmother, because I used to be afraid to sleep at night. And I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I remember I could perceive spirits all around us. And I was really quite scared of them. And these were the same like energies, oppressive energies, some of these, that I felt like had plagued me throughout basically my entire life, up until the point I had facilitated a 5-day class. It was a Talk to the Entities beginners class and a 3-day body class in Rome. And my family that's connected to this DNA is from Italy. My mother and grandmother were Italian refugees. And so that week, I felt like I had lifted these generational curses, so to speak, these oppressive generational curses. I know we're infinite beings, and I've been a lot of different cultures, you know, in different lifetimes. But I knew that there was something connected to this particular DNA that was holding me back, but it was something I could never quite access, no pun intended, cognitively. And so it really wasn't until I started to facilitate the talk to the entities where I actually start to get facilitated. It was something like when presenting this information to people and asking people questions back when they have a question to gain awareness, it somehow facilitated me. And it actually started to change things in my universe. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So fast forward 6 months later, after being a talk to the entities facilitator, I remember coming back from Moscow, and I made a lot of money. I changed a lot of people's lives. I was happy. We had so much fun. You know, all like my dreams are coming true. They're all actualizing. And yet I started to feel this sort of this energetic grip of depression starting to pull me down. And I'm like, what's going on? It was like more of a feeling. And I'm like, wait a second. Why am I going down into this hole? My life is fantastic. But I knew it here, but I didn't know it viscerally. And so what that did was it actually forced me to get really present with the tools, to talk to the entity, to like really present. I had to spend a good 40 minutes, and I fell asleep doing it by asking, who does this belong to? And I was actually clearing, communicating, receiving, and negotiating with the entities. And I'm like, okay. And I thought I was making it up. I still, at that point, 6 months into being a facilitator, I still had the point of view that this is really for other people. I just did this to help most of my sessions, my energetic sessions, because that's my capacity, right? And so as I'm being present with these tools for 40 minutes, I wake up the very next morning, and I felt like someone took out my old brain and put my new brain inside my head, and all this joy came back. And everything that was going on in my life, not only was I able to have gratitude for it here, but I was able to have gratitude for it viscerally. And then that's when this whole like world of like, oh my God. And I got to see how valuable the talk to the entity tools were. And it also helped me to give me an awareness of what my late wife had gone through with the bipolar disorder, because there were things that were going on in her world that she couldn't share with anybody, not even the pastor at church, because anything outside the religious box was from the devil, right? So it automatically closes the door to any other possibilities. So it's like she felt hopeless. So in that moment, I got to see that space of hopelessness in which she was functioning from, and why she decided to take herself out. And I'll never forget, I'm like, this can change the face of mental illness on the planet, hands down. People have to choose it, and they have to use the tools, but it can change the face of mental illness on the planet from my point of view. And so, yeah, it got me to realize not only but what people who have been in my life, or who had been in my life. I knew 3 people who committed suicide. And it just got me to look at what they were going through in their universes. Like, what were they aware of? They couldn't share with anybody, because all they would do is just put them on more drugs to cut off their awareness. And so it's been truly a gift. It's really empowered me to know an area that I didn't even think I had an ability to know. So.
Right. Cool. Wow. Thank you. You guys have it's amazing to see how for you guys, these very intense parts of your life, almost like where your lives were falling apart, acknowledging the spirit world has completely changed it. And now you're both thriving. So, I mean, it's like, that's a totally different world. Wow. So for me, it was a bit different. I mean, I grew up with a mom who was very entity positive. And so I started learning about ghosts and creatures and entities, at a really young age. And I had some of my mom's friends were more like spiritualists, and they would, tell me about their experiences with different beings, and so it was a really entity positive journey for me growing up, and I'm really lucky for that. And um, I was always looking for more of an education though, because it was just little snippets here and there. And I there were just different things growing up. Like I would wake up in the night, and I would be afraid to go to the bathroom, and I would I would creep by the piano, and I would always be like, "What's behind the piano?" And I'm like, "There's somebody there." And then I started to follow my awareness because I had been taught to trust it, and I realized that there was an old man living behind the piano. And so I was still, I really, still had this culture of a bit of fear around entities. And so I would go to the bathroom and sort of say hi to the man behind the piano, and then run into the bathroom. And so when I was a seeker from a very young age, and I came to access consciousness at a young age. And I'm so grateful to have been empowered and to have these tools, and to be able to travel around all over the place and share these classes with people and share this information with people, because it's just such a gift. And life doesn't have to be as hard as it is for 99% of the people. And one of the things that Shannon O'Hara, the founder of Talk to the Entity, says is like, she's like, most people think like you have a sickness if you can perceive ghosts, or like there's something off about you or weird about you. And she's like, it actually makes you sick when you're having tons of activity and people and beings around you all the time, and you are not willing to be aware of it. And so I just love that way of looking at it, because it's like there's just so much around us all the time, and it's like this whole other universe of possibility. I mean, so many of these beings, like the old man behind my piano, are trapped, and they actually don't want to be caught where they are, but they don't have a way to pass over or to become empowered or to go lead a new life. They're sort of just stuck there dead. And one of the greatest gifts for me has been helping out entities who are stuck and who don't know how to move on and move forward, and working with them to go, hey, it doesn't actually have to be, this place where you're stuck here forever. It's like there's a different choice for you, and there's a different reality for you. And so I love that. And I know, like, for me, when I'm depressed, one of the things is that there's some ghost somewhere that I'm not talking to, who's wanting to talk to me. And then when I actually talk to them and empower them and allow them to move forward and move on, it's like I just get a sense of peace and calm and happiness that comes over me that almost nothing else is like. It's this whole different experience that's so magical. And so for me, like, as a Talk to the Entities facilitator, and it's like, it is such a gift to go around showing people that they can do this too, and that it's not esoteric. It's not something that only a certain amount of people are psychic. Only a certain amount of people can talk to ghosts. I actually don't see ghosts. I just know that they're there. I know the specifics most of the time, and I know what's going on, and I always trust my awareness. And it's like, it makes my life better and better and better and better. So to go around and let people know that everybody has this ability, and you can choose to fine tune it or hone in on it as much as you like, is such a gift, and it's such an empowerment. So that's been just, I mean, you can't ask for more than that, than to see people's faces when they realize that they're not crazy. And I loved your story, Monish, about like you were in such pain, you burnt your house down. And it's like, what? And then you just changed it and like healed. That's amazing.
Totally, totally. And I guess one of the quick things before our signups, we can just say like an unexpected gift that we got from being a talk to the entities facilitators. For me, I've come to a point now this year when I see a person going into a little bit of a story or sadness or frustration or a problem that they have with a ghost or a demon issue, I look at them and say, hey, congratulations. What capacities do you have here? How would you like to turn this around? Because, to have a love affair or a fight, you got to speak the language. So, what language are you already speaking? And what else is truly possible now?
That's amazing. It is a different language, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah. It's actually more fun than regular language.
It is, isn't it?
Well, because
Faster,
it moves quicker.
efficient. Yeah, exactly.
Not as dense.
Yeah.
Even when you're dealing with the intensities and stuff like that, it's still easier than density of this reality.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this, being here. And thank you those of you who are watching and looking at a different world and a different reality and what you can create and how weird and different you are. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye,
Thanks for
guys.
having us.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Anthony.
Bye.